Welcome to today's episode of The Art of Feeling Better. And we're going to have a little chat today about a topic that most people run screaming from because it feels so unnatural. And that is the topic of self-compassion, self-love, and all of the things that we really should be paying major attention to, but we really don't. And a lot of my work, especially in my medicine wheel program and my medicine wheel pathway that I'm so passionate about, is guiding people to start off looking at all of the thoughts that get in the way and the reasons why we don't do this stuff and why we always hand our power away and we need that external fixing, why we repress some of the stuff that we really should be looking at. We go into all of the neuroscience behind that and all of the reasons why these behaviors come up and things get trapped in. And then we move through some tools to be able to anchor in and deal with that stuff as it comes up. And then we move into the direction of the West, which is all around water and flow and creativity and emotional processing. And that's where I am right now. And I thought while I was developing some material for this particular part of my pathway, I would share some of this really important topic out there with you guys in podcast land on the art of feeling better. So I think it's a really important topic and it's really interesting part of my journey as well, uncovering and understanding this part of myself as to why we continually run screaming from anything that's about ourselves. We're always deflecting and distracting ourselves, aren't we? And we're always shifting accountability, shifting blame and coming up with all these reasons and rationale why things aren't working or why things can't be done and why we're stuck in these spaces. And it's always on account of something out there, something external that's influencing that, whether it's the government or money or other people in our lives, people around us, partners, parents, siblings, children, workplaces, bosses. There's always a reason why we can't look a bit deeper at ourselves and why we can't take responsibility and accountability. And it makes me really sad as well as a woman and as a mother in particular. We have a real issue with this topic. We have some kind of bizarre limiting belief program running that if we even consider for a moment looking after ourselves, then we are somehow bad people or we're somehow are really selfish. And how it's just bizarre, isn't it? Why we get to that point where we continually refuse to actually look at ourselves. We're always looking externally. And for me, the power that we have to be able to actually change the world, and it was quite an interesting revelation for me, was when I realized actually I've spent a lifetime pushing outwards and trying to fight the power, fight the system, fight the things that are wrong because my justice gene is like uncontrollable. If there's an injustice somewhere, I just can't help myself. It's a compulsion. And I spent a long time in that space trying to fix things. And if you have been on my podcast journey and you are aware of my Batman origin story, or you have delved into some of my content as we work through all some of this sticky stuff, you will know that actually that's a trauma response. That's trauma drive. That is that constant need to be all things to all people, to be out there fixing and doing. And because one day you might be chosen or accepted or wanted or loved, or you might deserve the things that you feel somewhere, maybe I do deserve, but I'm not quite proven myself yet. So I have to go out and do more, be more, work harder, fit in some more boxes that people expect of me, slap some more labels on myself. And then maybe one day it will be my turn. And it's such an interesting place to work through. And trust me when I say when you get to the other side of it, it's a bit sticky to move through because you have to actually take a good hard look in the mirror and you have to look at yourself and some of the things that you've been trying really hard to ignore. But I tell you guys, it's liberating on the other side if you just do this piece of work, and it's an ongoing piece of work because you always have blind spots and you always have to check yourself, but it will shift your life completely. And I mean completely. Things will change rapidly if you get into this piece of work. So moving into this space of mine where we're looking at some of the feels, some of the stuff that crops up, some of the recurring patterns and behaviors and things that happen in our lives, and really dropping down into where you feel it in the body and what the thoughts come up and what the emotion comes up that goes with it and all of that sticky stuff leads to some real nuggets of gold. It's like panning for gold. Once you start to uncover this stuff and to pull up the weeds and weed this stuff out, you have a really great space to work from, because you understand what's been going on and you understand your part to play in that. And you also then have a bit of space freed up to work out what happens next and what you can do differently. Because if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? I'm going to get that tattooed on me. It's one of my favorite sayings. You can't expect a different result by banging your head against the same wall and doing the same things. So you can get into that space when you do that deep self-reflection, self-development work, where you can then pivot slightly and you can make different choices and you can move in different directions. But we have to start with ourselves. And it seems like such an obvious thing, but it was a real penny drop moment for me when I moved out of that space of being triggered and reactive, even though it was, my heart was in the right place and it was a very kind of noble actions. And in my mind, it was all for the greater good, and had that really dodgy self-sacrifice. That's a bit toxic, but I ignored that because I was a good person, right? And I was doing good things. So, but this kind of space of martyrdom and self-sacrifice was all connected into my childhood experiences and my trauma drive, and it's not an effective place to help and serve from. If you are someone who feels really aligned with being of service and being in the helping professions, there's a very fine line that can keep you locked in to a really, really toxic space there, when you believe that you're actually helping other people and that's what you're here to do and that's your role. But actually you are in this self-sacrificial role where you actually need the people that you're helping to validate you. And that's why you can be locked in these spaces for years and years and years with people who are then locked into the victim space so that you can be the fixer. You keep that horrible dynamic going. And I was definitely, moving in and out of that space for a good while, until I did the work on myself and realized that, maybe I'm part of the problem. And then start to look at how you can then disengage and disentangle yourself and stop being the problem. So, if that resonates with you and you're in that space, either as a parent, as a friend, as a colleague, or as a coach, or as a teacher or trainer or a leader, or someone in a space where you're helping other people, really think about that. Really lean into this piece of wisdom and this piece of learning, because it will change things spectacularly if you can do this piece of work. And because I follow the medicine wheel and my passion is bringing the medicine wheel to you, the direction of the West and the element of water connects it all together so, so beautifully, because we can tap into that right brain, creative, expansive space. And we can use some really nice, soft, safe tools to be able to do these pieces of work, right? And to be able to move around. And what I found is, when we start to think about internal stuff and actually start with me, if I can do this piece of work and if I can sort my own shit out, the ripple effect from that, if I show up aligned and in my own space, shining my light like a beacon and not making any apologies for that, then surely the ripples from that are going to help as many, people that I come across. And it's going to be from a place of authenticity. It's going to be from a place of truth. It's going to feel comfortable and aligned. And I'm not going to be masking, and I'm not going to, start to trip myself up and get into old patterns. I'm just going to be here, just being, and that will have the most massive, powerful effect out of anything else you could possibly do. The irony is, it's probably the most uncomfortable space for you to move into at the beginning, right? So once you do move through this space and into this space, it gets easier and easier, and it just becomes part of you. But if you spent a lifetime avoiding this space and avoiding thinking about you and your own needs and your own values and your own truth and your own potential, and staying locked in to societal expectations, family expectations, if you've been put in these boxes and you've been sat firmly in these boxes of expectation and never even contemplated that you might not be happy there and that you might need something else, if you've just said, well, this is the way it is and this is who I am and I just do as I'm told and get on with it because it's safe, that flock response, that fawn response of people pleasing, then moving out of that can be terrifying, right? And that sounds quite dramatic, but it is. It brings up all of the feels, right? All the stuff in the body that you've been resisting. It has to come up and move through. So you have to find ways to be able to navigate and engage with that. And sometimes when I'm working out in communities with people and I start to touch on this topic, I lose a lot of audience. you lose a lot of audience. And as in business, it's not very good, is it? However, part of my purpose is to be here to share some wisdom, and sometimes that means uncomfortable stuff is still important to share because it helps. On the other side of that, your comfort zone that keeps you locked in, right? In the growth zone, when you move past those little bits, is something absolutely magical. So that's my job, to try and nudge that as softly as possible. So today's topic is very firmly around that. It's around self-compassion. Self-compassion, and it's around tapping into some techniques and some tools and some reflective exercises to support that process. So even if it seems like something, when you hear it, you think, I don't like that, that's horrible. That means I've got to be nice to myself. I spent years bullying myself. My inner chatter is quite happy as it is, telling me I'm shit, I'm stupid, don't deserve love, don't deserve happiness, never going to make anything of myself. My business is always going to fail anyway. People don't like me, everyone judges me. I'm always stuck in lack and poverty, and everything always goes wrong for me. That's your inner dialogue, and it's quite happy where it is. When I tell you to reframe that and flip it on its head and start being nice, there's going to be a bit of resistance, and something will come up to go, well, we don't do that. We don't know what that's like. So let's just ignore this lady with funny hair, and let's just get back to scrolling on socials and having a look at everybody's dinner. That's the distraction, right? That's what we do. Or let's just go and do something else that feels more familiar and feels more comfortable. So the power, folks, is when you can actually move into the other space. If something feels it's a bit restrictive, or that feels a little bit tight or uncomfortable somewhere in my body, and I'm not too sure whether I like this or not, that is the gold that you are mining for. So that's what you need to look for and move directly into. Because when you move into that space and explore, why does that make me feel uncomfortable? Why did I have a weird reaction to that thought? Why, when somebody suggested that I actually think about myself, why did that bring up an uncomfortable feeling? That in itself, as a reflective question, will unearth loads of stuff. Well, because I've never been allowed to do that before. Or I was told as a child that my needs weren't important. Or, my bosses, my friends, my insert character made me feel like I didn't deserve that and it wasn't safe to do that. Right? So just these little reflective nudges make a massive difference when you start to actually move into it instead of away from it. So that's exactly what we're going to do. And I'm going to share some slides. As we all know, I love a good slide, don't we? But not very many. So I'm not going to share too many this time. Some of my workshops have more and are very slide heavy. Some of them are less, and this one happens to be less. So you're welcome for that. And I'm going to do a few little prompts while we're on this one today. So if you want to pause and grab a brew and grab a pen and a piece of paper or something to draw or write with, that'll be a good time to do it. And then you can kind of follow along with me at the same time. So let's have a little think about what this topic means. And we're going to include in this session today, we're going to include the impact of burnout. And I am an actual expert in burnouts. So I'm going to bring some of my experience to the table here in how important it is to do this piece of work. Whether you feel uncomfortable about it or not, we're going to really dive into how crucial it is on this part of your journey to be able to move into this space, because it's not something that you can skip over. If you really want to get to that transformative stage, and if that's, stop waving at the camera. I've got this snazzy camera that moves when I do things, so I need to stop gesticulating. But if you are looking to move from where you are stuck to this transformative space, this is one part that you really can't skip. You can't skip over it, because this is where the big change happens. Right? And this is why we're moving into this space now on the medicine wheel, is because you've done all the foundational work. If you've been joining me on this path so far, and if you're up to date with all the stuff, then you will have gotten those foundational tools to bring yourself to this bit. Right? So you're ready. You are ready to alchemize. You are ready to shift, and you are ready to start getting that space ready. Because next we're going to be moving into the south, and that's where we get our fire energy to transmute, transform, and really release and step into that soul purpose space. So for now, this is kind of the wrap up and the end of the thinking and the doing around the West and the area of water and creative flow. So we need to just purge. We need to just get rid of some of the stuff that's left over that's sticky before we move on to do anything else, before we move on to create. The most important thing is we need to free up some bandwidth. You can't move into the next space or do anything if your capacity and your memory is full up of crap from the past that you're still hanging on to because it feels like it's necessary to hang on to it for whatever reason. You don't have any free space. You don't have any bandwidth for these amazing new expansive experiences, for this purpose and values and meaningful activity, people, places, experiences that you should be opening up. You can't align with your soul's true purpose if it's full of junk from before that other people have given you. So this is kind of the space where we really start thinking about getting rid of the last lingering stuff that still might be hanging on in there. And we do it through this process of self-compassion, of understanding your needs, understanding where things might still not be aligned. You might still be thinking about putting other people first, and you might still be in a space of toxic recurring patterns and people from your past that are just hanging on in there. And we're going to look a little bit more specifically about the power of writing and the power of journaling prompts and writing to do this piece of shadow work, because it's really powerful. And if you struggle with writing, that's fine. You can do the same kind of thing as using voice notes or using video diary, that kind of thing. So you don't have to actually put pen to paper. You can draw it out if you prefer to draw things and use color. So when I say written word and I'm giving you these journaling prompts, you don't have to, handwrite a monologue. You can type it in like a text. Doesn't matter if you can spell or not either. It's all of those things are irrelevant. So don't get caught up in the assumptions that you make about writing prompts. You can find your own way around that. Do whatever works for you. So we're going to look at why it's important. Why it's important, because it'll help you avoid burnout. Why it's crucial now to get into the space where you can put yourself first, because even if you're a raging people pleaser like I was and still am, you can be so much more effective in that mission by getting your oxygen mask on and really shining and rolling out and filling people's cups up from your overspill, not depleting yourself. That's the key. And there's no shortcut. You have to look internally and inwards. You have to fix yourself up and sort yourself out before you can even think about being of service and supporting anybody else. That's whether you're a parent, teacher, coach, leader, however that looks. Sorry, guys. Sorry to break that to you. It's a truth. I know that might not be what you want to hear because it's too easy to go out and focus on other people and not yourself. But that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here as the hand holder, the way shower, the light bearer, to give you this safe space to be able to do this piece of work. So, this is my job. It's my purpose. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a bit of screen sharing, and then we'll have a little look at this area, self-compassion. So now is the time to treat yourself with the kindness that you have always deserved but never shown yourself. Take the time to pause. Remember, we've done this before. We have done the power of the pause and settled into that moment. Just remember how powerful that is. If you joined me with that particular topic and those particular exercises, you will already have an understanding of just how powerful that pause space and that reflection space is. And you might have some real experience of that so far. And it just gives you that chance to reflect, right? So we're going to just reflect on your experiences so far and celebrate all of the wins, large and small. So even just gifting yourself 5 minutes to think about how far you've come is a massive gift to yourself. And it's all part of that self-compassion, self-kindness, self-care space. So I would love for you to have a little look at how far you've come in your life, how far you've come on your journey with Mojo School so far. And just think about the difference. Think about that value added from maybe where you started from and where you are at this point, and all of the amazing people, the amazing bits of wisdom, the amazing learning points, all of the experiences, whether they were comfortable or uncomfortable, because we don't really do good and bad. Life is just a series of experiences, and some may feel great in your body, some might not feel so good. And what we want to do is we want to expand on the things that feel good as much as possible, and we want to reduce the ones that don't feel as good, right? And that's all part of getting into that, learning how to flick the switch between fight or flight and rest and digest. Going back to that previous topic, we want to be able to spend in time in the green. Polyvagal theory, little reference there. We want to spend time in ventral, vagal, rest and digest, collaboration, expansion, mindfulness, creativity, rest, where your cells are renewing and everything's doing what it should do, and we feel happy and joy and peace and creativity. That's what we want to be spending our time making sure we're in that space. And we want to have a little bit of time where things might not feel quite as comfortable in the body because we have something to learn. We need to grow. We need to do a little piece of work that might get us out of immediate danger, or it might be something that's reappearing that we need to work on, but short spaces of time. We don't want that cortisol flooding our system constantly, remember? We want to be able to in the other space. So just take a moment to just pause and feel some gratitude for the person that you were, that person that started this self-development journey, and how they kept you safe when you needed them to. So there is never any judgment, there's never any negativity. Really feel some gratitude for that version of yourself. And there could be multiple versions of yourself right away from childhood that had different thoughts, different behaviors, different patterns. And that person was a version of you that you needed at the time. They existed to keep you safe and to help you learn something valuable. Thank them, really thank them for always being there, but let them know that you're safe now and that you've got this now. And this version of you that you are becoming, this present, mindful, grounded version of yourself in this very moment, is creating those parameters of new safety, new experiences. And they can rest easy that they've done their job, but you've got this now. Just remember how that feels. Remember, the pause is the most powerful thing you can do. Just spend a little bit of time. And if it feels good, then you can pause and have a little think about that now. Have a drink, have some moments of contemplation, write some stuff down. That is cool. You can do whatever you want. Just make sure you have a little think about that. Now, as we know from the Mojo journey so far, our brains and bodies are amazingly complex machines, and we sometimes have a really strong saboteur lurking in the background whose only job is to keep you trapped in your old life. That's all it's there to do, is to think what it thinks it's keeping you safe, right? But it's keeping you trapped in these not so great spaces. And this is the life that it thinks is safe. And although it's uncomfortable, it's familiar. It knows where it stands, and it would rather stick with what it knows because we've kept safe before here. Don't venture out into the unknown because you don't know what's going to happen, and we don't want to end up in a situation that we've been in before, right? We don't want to pattern matching constantly back to these things that we've experienced that we didn't like and expecting them to happen again, right? It's what our subconscious does. So in this particular module, this particular topic, we are going to have another look at our self-care strategies, and we're going to reinforce our toolkit. So the knowledge that we're going to get out of this workshop today, and then through your dashboard on the medicine wheel pathway, there's some little tools and videos and cool things that you're going to be able to look into after you've been on this workshop with me. And then we're going to harness the power of self-compassion and storytelling to support us in the future. So there's a few things to work through, a few things to do that maybe will help you and help amplify and build that toolkit even further in this present moment, and give you guidance to what's going to happen next, but also things that you will stick in that kit bag and you can bring out at any time when you need them, right? It's an ongoing piece of work, an ongoing toolkit building. So it is absolutely time to give yourself a huge hug and show yourself the love that you deserve, right? So whether you are still in that space, and we've been through this in previous sessions and previous workshops, whether you're in that space where you are desperately waiting for that one person from way back when to value and to choose you, and that is what's keeping you stuck because you are so locked into that whatever it was that happened to you, whatever it was that you experienced that got locked in your formative years. If you're waiting for that to rectify itself, that can never happen. It's a moment in time that's gone and is never coming back. So, and this is really, really true for my own experience. When I did this piece of work myself, because I'll always give you something that I've experienced myself. It's my wisdom to share, whether you take it or you don't take it. It's just me sharing things that have worked for me. And when I did this piece of work, it was a massive revelation to realize actually I've been behaving in this way because I am just locked into this process of just waiting for that experience I had to be a different experience and waiting for the characters that were in that scene to come back again and do something different. And that cannot happen because it's been and gone. The trick is for you to do that for yourself. And if that's going back to do some inner child work and reparenting yourself, or if it's been a relationship that's really done a number on you, you have to do that for you. No one else is going to show up and do that for you. They really aren't. There is nobody or nothing out there to fix whatever it is that's gone on for you and that you're experiencing. You have to step up and be your own hero. You have to do this piece of work, and it's far more simple than you think. You can go through these processes, these creative processes, to rewrite your brain to give you a brand new ending to this story. You take back authorship of your story, you rewrite your ending, and your life will change. And there's synaptic pruning. You start to uninstall some of the programs that have been running, and you reprogram, start to build in new neural connections, new neural pathways, and that is how your life absolutely changes. But you're the only one that can do that. It's from your brain. You have to do the rewiring. And the way you can start to do that is to just sit with that, just move into it, sit with it, recognize that as a truth, and then give yourself a pat on the back, give yourself a high five, give yourself a fist pump, give yourself a mental thank you or a big giant hug. Maybe do something practical to show that. Have a nice bath with some Epsom salts and some aromatherapy and candles if that floats your boat. Gift yourself some time to go and do something creative you love. Maybe you want to go to a gig. Maybe you want to go and have a walk in nature because you love that. Any of those things, read a book that you've wanted to read for ages. Something that you've been putting off because you need to do other things for other people first. Use that as a tool. You know, your brain and your heart will thank you for choosing you and doing something that you like. And don't let anybody else tell you. I'm giving you some examples here, but don't feel like you have to go and do a specific thing or a specific journaling prompt that I'm going to give you. Or I better go and have a bath with salts and oils because she said that'll work, because it might not work for you. You have to explore and find what it is that lights you up and you want to do, and do more of it. Simple. Do more of it. That's how you show yourself compassion and kindness. And you show yourself the love that you deserve and maybe you didn't get. You can do that for you. And in case you didn't know, you absolutely rock. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Now, as part of this, and I know this is a bit of a contradiction because I'm now talking about other people again. However, if this helps you, and it helped me a lot through this process of choosing myself, I had to trick my subconscious into it at first by realizing the impact that this would have on other people, because my raging people pleaser, who only felt safe when I was doing things for other people and fixing things and ensuring that I was at the bottom of the pile, because that's where I was supposed to be, had to have a little bit of manipulation to get into this space. So it's important to think about the impact on other people, and it does help you realize how important this piece of work is. So if you think about the positive impact that your newfound self-compassion, your reinforced boundaries and self-care strategies, and your pause power tools are going to have on your family, your friends, and those around you. Really think about that. How, when you show up as the best version of yourself, the happy, the healthy, the full of energy, the resourced, the authentic person that's shining their light brightly, how much will that impact your children, your siblings, your friends, your colleagues, your parents, your community? It's massive work. And if every single person does this piece of work, can you imagine what that would do? Just literally pause for that a minute and think about the impact that would have. Take a moment to think back over your past triggers and behaviors and what you were modeling for other people and how you were showing up. And again, I explain this in some of my other workshops and episodes, and you'll have heard me talk about it before. My own experiences showing up for my family, my community, my people, saying one thing but doing another. What was I modeling? I was modeling ridiculous 60-hour weeks, complete burnout, trying to pretend to be Superwoman when it wasn't physically, humanly possible to do the things that I was doing, then getting an adrenaline boost because I've actually done it. So not supposed to be possible. I've done it. But to what cost? You know, eventually it's not sustainable, and it had massive, massive far-reaching impact. So me thinking I was doing great things, inadvertently in the end, because it's unsustainable and it's toxic and it's not the right way to do it, actually had a more negative impact on those around me when I inevitably burned out. So you really need to think about that. Think about if you're still in the space where you're stuck and things aren't shifting and aren't moving, what is that doing? What is that actually doing in terms of collateral damage? How is that rippling out into your family, into your home, into your work? Staying where you are now is not an option. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. You're going to keep doing that and you're going to perpetuate that cycle. So it's not an option, guys. We have to move. We have to move and do something different. And especially if you're a parent or if you're a teacher and you are in that space where you are modeling for young, impressionable minds, these are our generations of the future who, at the moment, we are on a real slippery slope. We are not modeling good stuff at all. And I don't know how much worse it could possibly get for the future generations coming after us. It's a really serious topic that, I talk about quite a lot. But the best way to inoculate our children from low self-worth is to work on yourself and show them how it's done. Sorry for another uncomfortable truth there. There's no way around it. You cannot preach from a book. You cannot force them and tell them that they have to be confident. They have to do this. They need to look at their own self-care. They need to be more confident. They need to work on their self-esteem. You can give them all the CBT tools in the world and all the thought reframing in the world. If their adult is not doing it, they ain't going to do it. They are watching every move you make. They are watching, and they will do as you do, not as you say. So it's real important part of work that you need to get cracking on with this. So I'm here to help you. Let's do it. So let's just have a think about avoiding burnout. And again, if you've heard me talk before, in some of my deeper pieces of work, I'll go into this in more detail. But burnout is really serious, like mega serious. You need to really take stock of where you're at and think about the consequences of burnout. I have been hospitalized several times over the years, not for the last 10 years probably. I've been in the good zone, but I do have some triggers that I have to watch very carefully. But I had a period of time where I was batshit crazy, if I'm honest, because I was looking back now, it was almost impossible. I think at the level of work and the stuff that I was doing, raising 4 kids, which is work on its own, right? It's more than a full-time job. Running 2 businesses. And I don't even know. I can't even explain how it was possible. I know I did it, but it's like looking at a movie of somebody else doing something ridiculously impossible. And I can think back and I can replay how that was at that moment in time and what I was doing. And I just can't even contemplate being the same person. And it's no surprise that I got so sick, but I was so good at masking, so good because I'd learned at a very early age the real good skill of masking because it kept me safe. But I was, really good at dealing with, and you know what? This is a strength. I'm really grateful for this because it's a strength and it's really useful. Really good at dealing with stress. And there's some of us out there that are considered to be strong, resilient people anyway, naturally. And if there's a crisis, if you're the person that everyone goes to, you'll resonate with this. Or if you know somebody who is the person, the go-to person. There's actually a book called The Curse of the Strong as well, which is really good read. And it's around how when we set ourselves up for that space and we are the strong people, there's no way out because we then can't admit weakness or defeat, or we can't ask for help anywhere because we're the ones that do it. We set ourselves up in this saboteur space because we think that we need to be the top of the food chain and keep everybody else safe. But it's not a great place to be, and you are absolutely inevitably going to burn out at some point. And it's like bowling or skittles. You just take everyone with you. Your feet go from under you. Everybody else has to go with you. So it's not good at all. Especially if you're a leader in a workplace, your staff will go down with you. If you're a parent, if you're looking after a family or community, you'll take everybody out with you, and then they have nobody to go to. So it's definitely something to think about. So I want you to just contemplate for a minute the consequences of burnout. So we're going to have a look at the top 3 signs in a second, but if you go to the middle one first, just while we're on the topic, and just think about, write it down if you want to, what will happen to you and the people around you if you hit the deck, if you burn out, if you, like me, end up in hospital or worse. What would the effects of that be? That's how serious it is not paying attention to yourself and not being compassionate to yourself. Just think on that. Pause for a second, stop the video if you need to, and just write down a few things. There is a template on the medicine wheel pathway. You're going to be able to see that and actually do that piece of work. Just think, what would that look like? What would that do? How would that show itself? What are the consequences? And then it's a really good idea just to write down the top 3 signs. That really helped me a lot, and it helped me because I was able to articulate it then to other people around me as part of my accountability, and a lot of people know exactly what to look out for. If I complain of a headache, if my eye starts twitching, if I start talking about migraines, I am really in the danger zone because I don't very often let it get that far. There are some exceptions. Sometimes the hormonal shifts at the moment. I'm perimenopausal, so I can't really do anything about that. Migraines are a feature for me. Sometimes something will kick in that I can do nothing about, and that, I haven't really done anything to cause it. But more often than not, it's a really, 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 really big red flag, and it was what kept putting me in hospital. That I have gone way past burnout, and I have now completely depleted myself. Some people, it will be fibromyalgia, chronic pain, it will be stomach ulcers, it will be heart problems, it will be something that shows up as a dramatic thing because you've not been listening to your body. You've been ignoring your body for a long time before you get to burnout, and you've been distracting yourself and going, sorry, I can't look after myself because everyone else is too important. And under the surface of it, what you're saying is, I'm too important. I have to be here to fix everybody, because if I stop to look after myself, the world will end. So you need to really check yourself on that one and think, actually, it's quite the opposite. If I don't look after myself, it's going to cause a catastrophe. So if you've been ignoring the signs, then sooner or later, something big and dramatic is going to hit you to put you on your backside. And I have experienced that several times. And even so, I'll have been in the hospital asking the doctors, give me some meds quick, fix me up because I'm too busy for this shit. I need to get back out. I've got things on my list waiting. It's ridiculous, isn't it? The doctors go, I think we found the problem here. Silly. So now I know, and that's why I'm so in tune now with my body. If my body gives me any little signs at the moment, I'm really, really on it, and I will look immediately at what I'm doing and what is my body telling me. Topic that we've covered before. The body knows. What is my body trying to tell me with some symptoms? So just have a think about that. What are your top 3 signs that you're skidding towards burnout? Okay, is it a behavioral thing? Do you start acting in a certain way? Do your thoughts start to do something to you? Do you end up, you can't get out of bed, or you struggle with does your vision go funny? Do you start getting heart palpitations? What is it that crops up for you in the physical or the behavioral space that is a pretty much a flag raising up to say, oh, if I carry on like this, I'm going to completely self-destruct. And write those down and share them with people that you love and say, right, watch me, watch my blind spots. If I start doing X, Y, and Z, you need to check me and tell me that I'm going to burn out. And it's really helpful, especially if you team that with what things will help. So 3 things that are warning signs and 3 things that help you in that moment. Because some people with the best will in the world, they'll do what makes them feel better, right? And if you say, oh, for my example, I'm getting a migraine, getting a headache, feeling stressed, and then somebody else says, right, you need to come and sit down for an hour and talk to me about that. It's not the best approach for me. It works great for some people, but what I need to do is get my self-care activated really quickly. I need to get my feet in the earth. I need to connect with nature. I probably need to eat a little bit better because I might not have been eating. So if you can articulate what things you need in that moment, then the people that you share this with will know immediately, oh yeah, there's a trigger there. I'm noticing this because you've told me in advance. So what you need is X, Y, or Z. Okay, so it's just about communication and articulating it. And that is how you do the last thing on that little list there. How will I mitigate and avoid future burnouts as I grow? So when you get into this lovely new expansive space and you start to do new things and you start to grow, you need to put that plan in place. How will you make sure you don't get overexcited and start burning out again, because you'll get yourself back to square one. It's like pulling the rug from under yourself. Get in that control panel, get in that driving seat, and make sure you set yourself up for success and not failure. And that means dropping down, pausing regularly, planning in your self-care, planning in your self-compassion, your reflective practice, making sure you have your oxygen mask on at all times, and making sure you know what to look for when your body tells you that you are not doing that very well and you need to reassess and repause. And there's a whole template there that you can use, and you can set that out in advance. So work through that and you'll have no problems at all. Trust me. Now, what we are going to do as we move forward into this particular workshop, this particular session, we're going to have a little look at that concept of right your way to wellness. And that's something that I'm going to suggest you move on to next. So there's a reason that I'm going to do this in this session. And we're going to use, as we are in the direction of the West and we are still in that space of creativity and flow and water, we're going to use that to our advantage, and we're going to bring all that together with some self-compassion journaling prompts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play some music. I'm going to play a couple of pieces of music and allow you the time on this session to jot down and consider anything that comes up on the following 3 things, right? So it doesn't have to be a completed piece of work. You could listen to this again if you want to, or you can just spend some time on it in whichever way works for you. I'll give you the ideas and I'll start you off, and then you can continue this as a really helpful tool to move you into the next space and get you ready as we move into the South next time. This is your prep, ready for moving into the next space. So I'm going to play a piece of music, and we're going to do, first of all, gratitude for self. And I want you to just list 3 things that you're grateful for about yourself today. Then I want you to move on to celebrating your strengths. And as you move on to the self-paced stuff that's attached to this, you're going to really go into this. We're going to do a strengths-based assessment. There's loads of cool things on the self-paced study that you'll be able to lock in and really do a deep dive on this. Celebrating your strengths. You're going to list 3 qualities while we're on today. 3 qualities or 3 strengths that you appreciate about yourself. You can start to think deep about how can you nurture these qualities and really start to celebrate them in your daily life and really show yourself that kindness. And sometimes that's a really difficult thing to do because people hate thinking nice things about themselves. And when I'm out doing this in the field and I'm doing these kind of what's your superpower kind of questions, people get really, really triggered by that. So just remember to move into it and sit with it and just write down what comes up. If you can't find those words, just write down what's coming up for you, and then you can explore as to why that is. Because if I say to you, name 3 things you hate about yourself, I don't think you need to think about it. It's quite easy to do that, right? Because your subconscious knows it because it's always bullying you with it. We need to dig a bit deeper to think, actually, okay, you can recognize that. We all have strengths and weaknesses, and you can say, yeah, I could do working on that. But find 3 things, 3 qualities or strengths that you appreciate about yourself, because this is how we flip the switch and we get more of the good stuff. We focus on the positives and we sidetrack the negatives a bit, and we reframe them into areas of growth. No negatives. That's just area of growth. So 3 qualities or strengths that you actually appreciate about you, and how can you nurture these a little bit more and celebrate them more in your daily life? And then I want you to think, as we come to the end of this session and the end of this piece of music, and it's something that you can carry on with, and I'll be encouraging you to carry on with, is writing a self-compassionate letter. Write a letter to yourself. And I would like you to write a little short letter, it doesn't have to take long, to yourself from your younger self. So from little you, and this can bring up some emotion as well. The first time I did this, oh my goodness me, I had a right good cry to myself because I was showing myself some kindness and I was giving myself all the things that I never had, that I deserved and I should have had at these times, right? So it can bring up some stuff, but that's a beautiful thing. Don't avoid it, don't run from it, because that's temporary. You'll get up and have a cup of tea after that and you'll feel so much better. So write a really compassionate letter from your little self. So little Jane, my inner child work, mine is 11-year-old Jane, right? There's some stuff that happened around that time that I needed to do some work with and reparent and reassess. So little 11-year-old Jane wrote a lovely letter to current Jane, like, give yourself a break, mate, chill out, have a rest, you're doing an amazing job. So think about those terms, and it can be you at any point in the past. Write a letter with some words of encouragement and support. What would those words be from your younger self to the self that you are right now? Okay, so I'm going to play this music and I'll leave this slide on. And I hope that has given you a little bit of food for thought about some of the things that we should really be thinking about and considering, the things that we really should be focusing on as we move through this self-development journey. And especially as we're coming to the end of our little journey to the West, this is really good to kind of galvanize all the things you've learned so far, all of the things we learned in the last module as well about stepping into creativity and unlocking inner wisdom through creative practices and the arts for healing and all that cool stuff that we've already explored. This now is diving a little bit deeper into some of the things we need to consider while we're using those tools to process. These are the things that we need to be processing, right? So these are the things we need to be cultivating. And now we have the toolkit to be able to do just that. So this is what we're going to do to round up today and to focus on how we're going to move forward and do some more good stuff with that by using the medicine wheel pathway. We are going to have a think about some more ways that we can use the written word. And again, when I talk about the written word, this could be, we're talking about language. We're talking about using language, and you can use your voice notes. You can use video voice notes if you want to see yourself back, or you could do traditional texty, the spaces on your dashboard to input things using your thumbs, because we're used to that way of doing things. Or you can have good old-fashioned pen to paper and explore that way. And you can use words, or you can use pictures, symbols, colour to get to the same outcomes. Okay, so it's how this works for you. And you will see from the 3 things that I'm going to suggest you look at that you can start to explore how that looks to you. And if you want to write, I mean, I love writing. I can type and type. I've written a book because I just love words. That really does it for me. So I would be personally doing that, and I like to outpour. I don't know if you've noticed, I like talking, I like words, but I would be doing that, and I would be writing out. I do prefer using digital space because I'm fast, and the rapid stream of words that comes to me and some of the visuals that I see that I'm trying to find enough words to describe them, I can type really fast, and it helps me with my flow. Not so much anymore because we're losing that art, pen to paper. I can't write fast enough, can't catch up with myself, and then I can't read my writing back because I'm trying to go too fast. So I do like to personally use typing to get the words out so that it's understandable, and I can do it in a pace that keeps in time with my brain. But if I'm doing things pen to paper, I like to draw. So I will draw out a storyboard, and I will draw out characters. And I'm not particularly good at drawing, right? So I'll do stick characters. I know what they mean, but I love that process. So when we're looking at these 3 things that I'm suggesting you do, you find your own way around it, whatever works for you. And I'd like you to think about writing, following on from that last exercise there, thinking about writing again a letter. And it's really, really powerful inner child work, and it's really powerful shadow work, connecting in with the parts of yourself, connecting in with your soul. And as you know, this is a really important piece of work for us moving forward, because as we start to move into the direction of the south and using fire and alchemy to transmute what is still lingering and create something brand new and metamorphosize into something else, right? We're talking about the chrysalis now turning into the butterfly. It's a really, really strong and effective piece of work to do, right? And it brings up all kinds of stuff that's hovering around that just needs to be worked on. So think about writing a letter. Write a letter to your little self, right? So I wrote a letter to my little 11-year-old self. These are the things that you needed. I'm showing up for you now, and just articulating how proud you are of them, and all of those good things that you would love to say to your younger self. And it can be any point in time. It could be a few years ago. It could be when you were really little. Just write a letter to your past self. And then I'd like you to write a short letter to your future self. Think about how that might look, how you want things to look, and what you really wish for that person, who they're going to become, and think about how that looks in terms of writing to the future version of you that you are about to start stepping into. Then I want you to think about your Batman origin story, and everybody has a Batman origin story. One of the first podcast episodes I did was my Batman origin story. I've done a whole blog series around that if you want to read it on Substack. Cultivate yours. Go back. It's all, again, it's good creative shadow work. Go back to the beginning and use the character development, because you can kind of separate yourself ever so slightly by writing this out as a story and thinking of it as your Batman origin story, your hero's quest. This is what happened. This is where we started from with our character. And you're kind of using the third person a little bit, which makes it easier to work through some of the emotional stuff that comes up. And it also helps you to get that timeline in place so that you can think, actually, look where I am now. I might be still thinking in those terms. I'm still locked into that emotional response and that thought response from way back when. But actually, look at my back, look at my story. Look how far, look what I've done, look how I've developed, look how far I've come. So it's really good to do. And you can storyboard that out as a comic strip. You can write your characters in, you can change names if you want to, or you can write it chapter by chapter. You can do it as a timeline with key points and key dates. I've done that personally, it works for me. And I'll do a line and I will do the things that have happened that have impacted me. And I might do red little timeline on the top for the things that have made me feel not so great and have been impactful in that way. And then on the bottom, I'll do green, just because color connotations for me helps. All of the amazing things that have happened. And you also then get to see, actually, there's a mixture. I think my life is just doom and gloom and everything goes wrong for me, but we have a good mixture of stuff here and it helps the reframing process. So have a go at working on your Batman origin story. And then your personal hero's journey. This is your hero's quest where you use that origin story to rewrite the ending of your story. Your hero's quest, what you were about to become. You've taken back the pen, you've taken back authorship, and now it's time to move on to that next chapter. Super, super exciting. So I'm going to leave it there for you guys today with those thoughts to percolate on. And hopefully you've got a journal or a piece of paper and a pen. You can go ahead and create and do some cool stuff with it. I hope you found this valuable today. I'm going to have another special guest with us very soon. And we're going to start doing some really cool work around lots of different interesting topics this year. But if you would like more information, you want to jump on my Medicine Wheel pathway where this kind of content plus loads more can be found. It actually now costs the same as, well, it's the same as nothing. It's 47 pence a day it works out as for the subscription. It's a no-brainer. You can't even get a Freddo for that. It's ridiculous. So imagine all the stuff you can unlock. Loads of accredited courses. There's a whole pathway of these kind of workshops that will help you right the way through the Medicine Wheel. It's really cool, if I do say so myself. So I'll pop a link so you can join if you fancy hopping on. And I will see you in the next episode of The Art of Feeling Better.